Republican committeeman in Chicago, Lynn Franco. Lynn, welcome to Mark My Words. How are you?
Good evening, Mark. I'm great, and it's really an honor to be with you and to speak with you and to finally hear a real, true voice in the conservative community of Chicago.
Thank you, and Lynn, thank you for all that you do. And before the last segment, I was just teeing everybody up on Chicago GOP Chairman Steve Bolton, who's addicted to attacking conservatives and rules the Chicago GOP like a third world dictator, how he has a history of attacking women and conservatives on social media, and he proves Illinois Review's point every single time he posts a comment, because he responds to articles that he attacks people by attacking people. And so, Lynn, and we're going to get to this, but you have become one of Chicago GOP Chairman Steve Bolton's, you've been one of his frequent targets to go after, to attack in private, in emails, and we're going to get to that, Lynn. But it's no wonder that the Chicago GOP has had trouble filling 18 vacancies for ward committeemen. It's no wonder that the Chicago GOP has had issues on identifying a Republican candidate for mayor. And before we get to our first question, I want to make this crystal clear. This is not a rebuke of the many wonderful Republicans like Lynn and so many others that are within the Chicago Republican Party who dedicate their time and talents and treasures to support Republicans across the city of Chicago. This is not about them. This is about their chairman. But Lynn, let's go back and kind of to the beginning. What inspired you, Lynn, to be a member of the Republican Party?
I realized, Mark, that I really was a conservative. I have conservative leanings, and I realized the Republican Party was for me. I would say by the time 1985 came around. And because I grew up in a time where people chose to do for themselves, faith, family, doing for yourself. During the 70s or 80s, and even during the 60s, people were ashamed to ask for food stamps or to say, the government owes me this or that. It was a time about pride, American pride. Our public schools were better. Of course, our private schools were spectacular, but we had wonderful public schools, BDS, you name it. But all of a sudden, the fruits, the bitter fruits and the poisonous fruits of the liberals through the Democratic Party began to show up in our society. You had the crack epidemic. You had children dropping out of school, young girls dropping out of school, having babies because they figured that the government was going to take care of them. And I realized this didn't make any sense, because during my travels, and I worked and lived abroad in Germany alone for like 28 years. And during that time, I say during the late 70s up until the time I left to go and work in the Middle East in 2006, Americans had a great reputation in Europe. We were the big innovators. In Chicago alone, we had 5 black-owned banks. We had the most black millionaires, more than any other city. I don't know anything about asking people for anything. During the time that I came up, you did for yourself, and you were proud to be an American. But the Democrats have all but, washed that away. And then this chairman of our party, Steve Bolton, he wants to revive it. He has marginalized me as a Republican woman, a serious politician, and he sidesteps me, and he pulls in people who he knows are not Republican, who he doesn't even care that they voted or didn't vote during the primaries. These are the people he wants to choose, people who will be yes men on his side, do whatever he says. And he has eroded what Chris Cleveland built up, our previous Chicago chair.